Hi, everybody. My name is Nigel Savage. I'm coming to you live from COP26 here in Glasgow. I was the founder, I am the founder and was for 21 years the CEO of Khazan. And happily, I'm not. Yakir Manella, who's here with us in Glasgow, is now the CEO of Khazan. And we're doing this series of podcasts here live from COP26. And I'm incredibly thrilled and excited to have as our guest this evening, Dr. Tareq Abu Hamad, who is now the Executive Director of the Arafat Institute. Tareq is a Palestinian Muslim from East Jerusalem. He did his PhD in Turkey. He did postdocs in the United States and at the Weizmann Institute. He was in the office of the chief scientist in the Israeli government. He was most recently the academic director of the Arafat Institute. And just as both David Lehrer and I stepped down from their respective organizations, you and Yakir stepped up. So Tareq, firstly, it's just a great pleasure to see you. We've seen each other in various places, but this is the first time in Glasgow.
The same.
First of all, just say, I'm going to ask you in a minute about the Arafat Institute, but COP26 is kind of weird, right? It's huge. There's all these different things going on. What have you made of it so far? What have you liked? What have you not liked? What have you been surprised by?
Okay, actually, this is a great opportunity to join the COPs. I was in the previous one in Paris and now in Glasgow. It's a great opportunity for any environmental and educational organization to join in order to learn and see what is the world doing. We all hear the very ambitious targets from different countries. What makes this COP unique is actually considering or thinking about climate change as not an economical burden on many countries. Many countries see it as opportunity. They see high tech and technology and green technologies as a solution for the climate change. That's why we see a lot of business people here, a lot of educational. We heard the voice of the youth in this conference, taking the lead and preparing their requests for the negotiations on Monday. Everything is going well, and I hope that the countries will meet their targets. It's as I said, it's a very ambitious target for many countries, but I believe that it's doable. We are late, and we have to act now in order to see the changes within 10 or 20 years.
I think one of the things that I'm really struck by is that I was a little bit involved in the lead up to Copenhagen and Paris. And in the lead up to those conferences, people who were involved in the environmental movement were aware of it, but outside of that, not so much. And I think one of the things that's very striking and frankly quite moving is that it feels like in the attention of the world, this conference has a much higher profile than ever before, and that we really are at a tipping point moment, and an awful lot of things are starting to move in significant ways. Do you think that's
Indeed.
right?
Yeah, I also noticed this. It's I think because the people saw more and more natural disasters around the whole world. We saw here in COP26 even farmers, regular farmers, normal farmers from Africa, from North America. They know that climate change is impacting their daily lives. And when you open any TV these days, you see that COP26 is on the headlines everywhere, even in the developed world and the developing world.
Tareq, you've just taken over the Arafat Institute, and Khazan has worked with the Arafat Institute now for 18 years, and we've watched it firsthand. Every single year, this organization, the Arafat Institute, has grown, has had more impact, has had more reach, has done more things. And you're arriving at really an exciting moment. And I think even since you've been there, you've just launched this Center for Applied, I've forgotten what it's called, the Center for Applied Environmental Diplomacy. Is that right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what your first 2 or 3 months on the job has been like? What are you enjoying? What are you proud of? What are the challenges?
Look, I'm not a newcomer to the Araba Institute. I've been involved with the institute since 2008. I watched it growing. Uh, I think the region started to believe that regional cooperation in environmental issues is very critical to the region. That's why the Araba Institute is growing and growing and having more impact on the ground in Israel and also in Palestine and in Jordan. In the past, we were approaching governmental organizations and offices to get help, to get funding, and now these organizations, these governmental offices approach the Arava Institute to consult and to get help in connecting between Israelis, Palestinians, Jordanians. The first 3 months actually were for me very exciting, very eye-opening to see the organization like from a what they call it, the bird eye, and to be involved in every little operation at the institute. I really, as I did in the past, enjoying working at the Araba Institute. And the nice thing in the Araba Institute that everyone works at the Araba Institute believes in the mission of this organization.
I'm really struck that this is a really interesting moment right now in Israel in general. Just in the course of like last week and the week before, I went out for one day with Rabbis for Human Rights, and we picked olives with a Palestinian farmer in the West Bank, in the Shtachim, in Judah for Shamrom, in Palestine, all those names. But a family that had been attacked by Israeli Jewish settlers. Happily, nobody showed up that day, but it felt like an important thing to do and was reflective of, in a sense, bad things that are happening there. And then the week later, I was at the Knesset for the announcement of the Controller General's report on the environment in Israel. Very significant, a sort of scathing critique of the Israeli government for not doing more on the environment, and yet also an incredibly inspiring day, relative certainly to the politics of the United States. Alon Tal, founder of the Arava Institute, now a Haver Knesset, leading this thing. But the speakers included an MK from Yamina, which is to say really on the right, followed by Dov Hanin from Hadash and a communist, followed by somebody from Meretz, and a real sense of like momentum and energy and change. And I'm really interested to know what your take is right now on like this Israeli government, what's going on in Palestine, Abbas, the environment, what are the challenges, what's like really teach us a little bit about what's happening right now.
Yeah, actually, this as you said, yeah, as you said, Nigel, this government is a unique one. It's very diverse from the extreme right to the extreme left. I believe that there's a great opportunity within this government with the people that we have now in the decision making process. We know about several meetings between different sides from Israel and from Palestine. There's a great opportunity. People are willing to do changes on the ground. Maybe the Israeli government agreed not to deal with the peace process now, but we see a lot of progress on different aspects, from the environment, from giving Palestinians building permits in Area C. The Palestinians are also willing to cooperate on many aspects. So this is a great opportunity for organizations like the Araba Institute to be addressed, to ease and to help in doing these communications. And that's why actually we established the Center for Applied Environmental Diplomacy, because we want to use environmental diplomatic tool. We want to use the science, the research as a diplomacy tool to connect between people. And we called it Applied because we conduct projects on the ground. We want to use these projects as proof of concept that this can happen. The communication between Palestinians and Israelis is doable, it's feasible, and we just need the willingness to do that. And we also need the role and the power of diplomats in our region to help conduct such environmental projects, transboundary environmental projects that impact the life of people on both sides.
Can you give us an example of some of the things that some of your students or alumni are working on at the moment, either specific environmental projects or partnership issues?
Actually, the Araba Institute is conducting several projects right now. Just last week, we hosted 11 Gazans, including 5 women from Gaza, in a training on water and energy systems. They've been with us for 5 days. We conduct several projects on off-grid wastewater treatment systems in the West Bank and also in Gaza. Our alumni are involved in the design and the implementation of the projects. We also managed to introduce into Gaza Strip 3 Israeli water generating drinking water generators that they generate water from the atmosphere. Several projects on the ground that increases the quality of life of people, and the most important thing is that these small projects, they build trust between the two sides.
And Suleiman has been doing stuff in Aqaba, is that
Jordan,
right? Tell us a bit
yes.
about that.
Okay, we have not only Palestinian alumni, we have many also Jordanian, Moroccan, Turkish alumni. They are very well active, and actually most of our alumni stay in the field of the environment. Suleiman now is Suleiman Halasi is a Jordanian from Aqaba. He lives in Aqaba, and he established the Jordan Israel Center for Environment, Community, and Research. We call it GISER. It's Gesher. It's a bridge with Rina Kedem, also another alumni of the Araba Institute. And the nice thing at the Araba Institute, when the students come to the Araba Institute, they follow us. They learn from us, and toward the end of the semester, we follow them. We learn from them, and that's the unique thing. And that's how we keep our students and alumni involved in what's happening on the ground in Israel, Palestine, Jordan.
I'm interested also, again, you don't have to answer this if it's a complicated question, but it's not so easy to get students in from Gaza. It's quite a while since students have come in from Gaza. Was that straightforward? Was that complicated?
It is complicated. It's a long process. But again, as I said, we the Araba Institute is good at building trust. The people in Gaza know the agenda of the Araba Institute, the civil administration, the Israeli agenda of the Araba Institute. And we managed to build trust with them. It takes a long time, but we are capable of doing that.
There's been a lot of excitement in general in the last year or so about the Abraham Accords and opening up those relationships with some of the Gulf states. Are you guys involved in that? Like where is that? Is that a potential future something?
Yeah, actually today we just got we signed an MOU with the United Arab Emirates organization. It's called the Peace and Environment Center. They actually approached the Araba Institute to sign this MOU. The goal of it is to do joint activities, prepare policy papers on water, energy, food nexus. Since the signature of the Abraham Accords, we managed also to submit joint research proposals with Emiratis, with Moroccan organizations. It's a great opportunity for us. The Araba Institute has 25 years of experience in transboundary research, and we want to build on that with the United Arab Emirates, with Bahrain, with Morocco, and to do more and more with these countries that they have similar climate to ours.
I want to just ask you briefly about some of the actual specific issues on a sort of 10, 15, 20, 25-year view. Israel and Palestine are in a very hot part of the world. There seems to be some evidence that temperatures are rising in the Middle East by more than global averages. Can you just give us a sense over the next 20 or 25 years, what are the likely expected consequences, already in train consequences, of the climate crisis that we're already experiencing? And what are the key changes that you think needs to happen in the region in the face of that?
This is a very good question. Indeed, the region that we live in is a very hot spot for when we talk about climate change. Israel is located in a geographical location between Europe and Africa, and any changes in the climate in Europe and Africa impacts the region that we live in significantly. The summers are expected to be 40% hotter than the global average. Currently, we're facing 1.4 degrees more than the global average. This is the increase in temperature is a disaster for the whole region. Less rain, more droughts, less agriculture. Like 70% of the agriculture in the MENA region relies on rain. The Nile Delta is expected to be flooded within like 10, 20 years if you continue business as usual. Shat al Arab in Iraq also expected to be underwater. That means tens of millions of people will have to find another place to live in. The Delta in Egypt is a house for 40 million people. And if they lose the agriculture there, if they lose the land there will be huge immigration waves within our region. So climate change is not only environmental disaster, it's a first degree national security issue for the whole region. If we look into what happened in Syria, people had to immigrate from the north and the south into Damascus, and that what actually catalyzed the Arab Spring in Syria. The whole region that we will live in is very fragile. If we do not act now, I think in 10, 20 years, this place will be totally different area. But again, as I said at the beginning, climate change, it's not only a threat, it's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity, especially for Israel, where it develops a new plant types that they can handle droughts, heat, salinity, energy, renewable energy production, energy storage, developing technology to monitor pollution in water and also on the ground. So this is a great opportunity for these technologies to be an example for the whole region and the whole world.
I'm really struck, even just the last 8 or 10 weeks that I've been in Israel. First of all, I'm struck that there is a real tipping point. Like there were 12,000 people, 14,000 people at the climate march in Tel Aviv last week. There's a young woman called Michal Deutsch who did an 8-day hunger strike outside Bet Hanassi to call upon the government to take a climate crisis seriously. And I ended up spending time with her every day. I davened Kabbalat Shabbat, the prayer at the start of Shabbat, in the street opposite Bet Hanassi, the president's house, before Friday. I spent 6 hours with her on the day of Yom Kippur, when normally I'm in synagogue, Bet Knesset all the day, and I broke fast there. And what was most moving to me is that Bougie Herzog, who was the president of the State of Israel, not only came out the first day to say hello, but on the night of Kol Nidre, after services, he came out with his wife and said to her, Gemar Chatima Tova, I wish you a good fast. And he said, when this is over, write me a letter and I'll look at it. And I'm not saying that this is because of Michal, but 2 weeks later, he announced a major initiative under the office of the presidency to take on climate across the whole of Israeli society, chaired or led by Dov Hanin, who was mayor of Tel Aviv, who was a communist and stuff. I'm really struck by this sense of people coming together across difference.
Yeah.
The government is coming together, the private sector. And I have to say, for many years, the story in the diaspora was, oh, the diaspora is so good, America, Britain, we're so good. Israel's messed up. And I'm not saying that Israel's not messed up. We all know Israel is pretty messed up. But there is huge progress all over the place. And meanwhile, in the United States right now, things feel very, very gummed up and antagonistic. And most recently, we had this awful thing in DC where the Sunrise Movement, which is fundamentally a good thing, it's young, progressive Americans calling on everybody to make significant change. And they kicked out 4 Jewish organizations on the basis that they were Zionists, which was very sad. I think some of it has been walked out. But as you look at this, you're running a major organization. You're a religious Muslim, you're a Palestinian, you're an Israeli citizen, you've got alumni of every flavor all over the place. What do you make of what's happening in the States and in the American Jewish community? And have you got any advice for us?
Okay, first of all, I don't agree, and I was really sad when I read about that. What we do at the Arava Institute while bringing Palestinians and Israelis together, Palestinians who never saw civil Israeli. They know Israelis with the uniform, with the army. We bring them in one classroom, and we teach them how to actually face the challenges in our region. You cannot use the boycott as a tool if you want to be in dialogue with someone else. You have to understand the other in order to actually prepare your action, to design your actions. You have to listen to them. You have to hear them. We're bringing Palestinians, Israelis, not to change their mind. No, we want them to understand the reality of the region by cutting organizations, throwing organizations out of consortium or of a league. That is the last thing that should happen in the environmental world. The main message of most of the world leaders in COP26 was partnership. We have to work together to solve this problem, regardless the color, the belief, the religion, because this is what we should do. If you want to change something, you have to be in dialogue with all the stakeholders, with all the players. You listen to them, you understand them. You, if you don't agree, that's totally fine. We are on the same ship, and we have all to work together to come safely to the shore.
Tareq, that's a great way to close. I really want to say shukran, tadarabah, thank you, ba'atzlacha. To anybody who's watching, first of all, for information on, or listening, for information on the Arava Institute, go to arava.org. For information on Chazon, go to chazon.org. I just want to end by noting, for those of you who can see, we're in this place in the center of COP26. It's kind of striking. There is a huge globe behind us. There are, in fact, national and international TV broadcasts that are actually broadcasting live from around this venue. If you're listening to this or watching it, this is a tipping point moment. And it's a tipping point moment for all of us. And to me, Tareq, you personally, and the Arava Institute institutionally, represent what it is to say, I will not be disempowered. I will not give up. I will figure out who I am and what I can do. Every single person who is listening to this has the opportunity to get your institution involved, your synagogue, your JCC, your Jewish camp. You should be part of the Chazon Seal of Sustainability. We're happy to work with you to drive a systemic process of change. You should see a piece of being a Jewish institution in the 21st century as partnering with the Israeli environmental movement and supporting the Israeli environmental movement. And if you want to invite Tareq or somebody from the Arava Institute to come and speak at some point, they would be honored to come. And so here live in Glasgow, Tareq, thank you, everybody. Thank you, and thank you, everybody.
My pleasure.
And we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow.